I wonder if we have the same Surface. Do you have is it the Surface Go? Is it the newest one?
Yeah, I have the second version.
I think I have the first. I really enjoy it as like my daily driver is a Dell XPS 15 that I use for work, and it's so heavy compared to the Surface.
Yeah, I got this because whenever we go away, I'm always borrowing my mum's laptop, and like I'm not intending to do any heavy artwork on it or anything, but just for like writing or code stuff, it's pretty good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, usually I have a 45-minute commute, so if I'm on the train or on a ride, I'll just tether from my phone, and it's so great to just be able to pull it out and do something. Just something.
You commute too?
Yeah.
Ouch.
I know.
On the T?
On the T. Yep.
Yeah.
Red line usually.
The red line, the one that stops running at like 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
It's so annoying.
That's the very same.
Yeah. Man, I couldn't understand that in that city. I just couldn't. I was like, what do you mean it stops running at like 11? Like what? Who does that? Even in LA they run late. This is LA where we hate mass transportation because we have to have cars and we have to take Instagrams of ourselves in the cars while we're sitting in traffic to show everybody how we made it to the traffic event.
How's the Boring Company doing? Like, what's been happening there with the tunnels?
Yeah, I don't know. He's been so wrapped up in SpaceX launches. I haven't seen any press releases or anything about that. I mean, I haven't actively looked for it, but I don't know. I mean, he was going to tunnel from what was it? From SpaceX and Hawthorne up to wherever he lives, like Brentwood or not Brentwood, Beverly Hills or something.
He's got like a whole mountain.
Yeah, he wanted to do it like under the Santa Monica Mountain or something. It was like, all right, that's cool. I mean, if it works, it's going to be awesome. But I don't know. Now with COVID, it's kind of not awesome because you're stuck in a metal tube underground, even if it's just for a minute with a bunch of people. So, but it would probably solve quite a bit of issues here.
I really liked actually like the side thing that they were doing with that company, because obviously Boring pulls out a lot of ground, and they were making bricks, weren't they, for low cost houses, which I thought was really cool. Yeah.
So you're gonna talk about the flamethrowers.
Oh yeah.
Flamethrowers.
Yeah.
But I love the pattern on the chair. I just had a look at the image.
Yeah. It's an interesting setup that I'm at right now. Although probably not as uncomfortable as yours, Kurt.
Yeah, I think my bag's gonna be complaining at the end of this. I really wanted one of those flamethrowers, but that wasn't going to work out, and they were brought out. Sold out immediately.
They were. Yeah, I strongly considered it, which I think is probably the only time I've strongly considered buying a flamethrower the way that I did. But by the time I was able to go see how much they were sold out.
Just goes to show that, like, if you have a massive audience, even just doing things for the stupid value, you can just make a ridiculous amount of money just like that.
It's true.
I was just reading that they're working on a Tesla dating app for people who own Teslas exclusively. So yeah, it goes to show.
I love that it's such an in club.
Imagine only dating someone if they have a Tesla.
That's your criteria. That's it.
Yeah. Criteria. Do you have a Tesla? Yeah. Like, do you have a ski mask and a gun and have held up the store before? Yes. Oh, would you have a Tesla? Yes. Okay, we're dating.
Will you marry me?
Will you marry me? Exactly. Like, my friend has a Tesla. It's pretty cool. It is.
They are.
I mean, he charges it at work, but I don't know if
they really turn heads as well. Like, you can immediately see a Tesla. When you see the logo, you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Every time I see a car and I'm like, wow, that's a sexy car. It's usually a Tesla.
Yeah.
9 times out of 10.
It's like when you fly into
so many out here. What's that?
If you fly into Amsterdam or the airport there, and you come out and the taxi rank is just full of Teslas. It's like so bizarre. I know, it's like 30 of them.
I saw a car caning it down. I think it was like Mass Ave or something. and I caught the license plate and it just read robot, and then it took me a moment to like register that the logo was a Tesla, and he was just going for it, which is nice. I've been in one before and they have so much push.
They do. Yeah,
I love the ones that have the gull wing doors. That is Tesla, right? There's a certain model that has the doors that go up.
They like avoid stuff as well. You can park next to another vehicle and they'll like only go up as far and like articulate around it. Very clever.
Yeah, they are really cool. Like the pickup is really amazing. Like I have a friend who had a Porsche Boxster, and we used to open that thing up and you just feel it. You feel that thrust, and then in the Tesla it's a very similar feeling. I was like, really? An electric car? That's awesome. It's pretty fast.
It's because electric
they don't really
cars
turn my head anymore though. But
they've got full torque at 0 miles per hour, don't they? So it's like a diesel or a petrol. You've got to get up to like 2,000-3,000 RPM before it starts pulling.
Yeah.
But then an electric car will pull from it. Just does it immediately.
So. You just feel it. You're like what? It's insane.
I was really impressed by that. I had a professor who had one and has one, and he offered. He's like, if you ever want to drive it around, feel free. But I was too intimidated by that power. Yeah.
With great power comes.
Yeah.
Great.
With the quote Kanye.
Anxiety.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
No one man should have all that power.
Man, they're fun though. They are cool, but they're so ubiquitous out here now. Like so many people have them. It's just like the only thing that turned my head twice out here was seeing a Bugatti Veyron on the streets. I was like, what?
Why?
I'd be like Ferris Bueller. Like I would keep it in my garage and rub it down with a diaper. Like that's because it's like a $2 million car, but I've seen them on the road here. I'm like, wow.
There's like a guy in my neighborhood who has like a Lamborghini, and he's like a couple houses away from me, and I always see him driving around.
Wow. Yeah.
Just the block?
Yeah.
Stretch the legs a little bit.
It's like at some point, it's like you have this amazing car, right? Like a Bugatti. Now the Chiron is the new one, but the Veyron was really cool, right? You have this amazing car, but you can't open that thing up anywhere. Like, not in LA. Like, there's traffic everywhere. It's like the Truman Show. The second you leave your door, everyone else is like clamoring to like get in your way. So like, you can't open that thing up. And even if you try to open it up like on the 5 or on the 15 going to Vegas, like there's speed traps everywhere. So it's like, okay, it's cool that you have it, but pay for them, though. Yeah, it's like, wow, look at me, I can pay for this. That's cool, I guess. Like if you're into that sort of thing, but like you can't really enjoy it.
About the Bugattis, don't they have one that's basically become a tourist destination in LA? And like it's just parked outside one single shop, and I can't remember what road it is. But we went to see it when we went there. But
oh wow, maybe
it's such a popular thing that they even replicated it in Grand Theft Auto. I think as a little joke, they make sure that there's always an expensive car parked outside of a shop that's roughly where it should be, because it's based on LA. Is it Los Santos in GTA 5? Forgetting the names.
It is.
I think so. It's roughly based on this. So I think that they've got a certain area where an expensive car always spawns. I believe it's based on that.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, it's probably
I wouldn't be surprised.
Probably Rodeo or something, like one of those shishi.
Yeah, I think so.
One of the places that's known to be shishi. There's a lot of places that are really shishi, but I'm liking that word shishi.
When we went to see it, there was someone there that said that on 2 occasions they've had just people randomly smash the windows. Apparently it's not too bad to repair it in terms of price, but I don't think they ever press charges or anything.
Yeah.
Depends if you've got the money to buy it in the first place.
Yeah.
How much is a window going to cost you? So.
How much is an oil change on that thing though? That's like, jeez. But they're nice though. Like if I had my choice of a car, that'd be really cool to get. I wouldn't spend $2 million on a car, but it's still like pretty cool looking. I really like it.
Didn't Bugatti just break their own speed record as well recently? I don't know too much about it, but I think I remember seeing a video about them.
Maybe they did. They were on Top Gear, and a guy was like tooling around in it, and he was like, "Look, I can go like 300 miles an hour." It was pretty awesome. It's like at that speed that you hit a pebble, it's like, what happens? I don't know.
Just that's like cool, space. That's like space though, because you always think, well, things that are going at like a certain percentage the speed of light still physically exist. So
Yes.
if you're hurtling around in a spaceship and something hits you with like donkeys miles in a second, like what happens?
I know, even a pebble.
Someone did an interesting video which was something like, if a needle hits the earth at the speed of light, what would happen? And no one exactly knows. And then, but they come up with like a few different theories, which all of them are interesting. So if anyone finds that interesting, they should look it up on YouTube. But there was one that was, if the needle hit you at the speed of light, what would happen to you? And they're not too sure, like whether you would just explode or whether it would pass through the gaps of like that it could between atoms, and maybe nothing would happen. But it's like, it's an interesting thing to think about.
It would get so hot from the friction as well.
Yeah,
Like it would just cauterize a hole through you, surely.
Yeah, exactly.
Technically, a needle has mass, and a mass can never achieve the speed of light ever, because according to Einstein.
Yeah, exactly.
Theory.
But it's fun to theorize. Big explosions.
I'm tired. Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have ever read the book What If by Randall Munroe.
No. That's cool.
Wait, first of all, have you guys seen the webcomic XKCD?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's a
it.
book written by the guy who made XKCD, where people ask him questions and he answers them. And a couple things he goes over, like, what if something was moving at like 90% of the speed of light, like what would happen? And it's really interesting.
Yeah, I think at 90% of the speed of light, even like a grain of sand would probably be the size of a basketball or something. It's like, according to the theory at least, the faster you go, the more mass you accumulate, and then the slower you end up going. So if something was actually traveling that fast, actually it'd probably be like a grain of sand would probably be the size of Earth or something, if it's going like if it's going 90% the speed of light, right? Because you would just acquire, it's kind of like an exponential thing where you're just acquiring mass as you acquire more mass, and you slow down as you approach the speed of light. That's why you can't travel the speed of light unless you're energy, because mass can't travel the speed of light. Right? Am I right or wrong? I think I'm right.
We need James in here.
Yeah, I read Brief History of Time years ago, and that was like what I remember.
Mass can't travel at the speed of light because of, is it special relativity? So
yeah,
from any viewpoint, light will always move away from you at, what is it, like 186,000 miles a second?
Per second, yeah.
And so if you're going faster, time sort of like adjusts to compensate for that.
Yeah,
not for me. Relativity.
It's just like, not for me.
So like,
for me.
From your viewpoint, you could be moving at like, say, 3 times the speed of light, but then from an external viewpoint, time would have like adjusted to compensate for that, and you wouldn't be moving at the speed of light from an external viewpoint.
I feel like I've seen a breakdown of this using a train.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about, Gabe?
He spoke of the observer.
Which was the
observer effect.
Oh.
Yeah, I think Einstein used the train example when he was teaching.
It was the observer effect or something. I remember that now. I have to look at it again, but that was really interesting. So I wonder if
the thing that really ranks my head is time dilation. And that scares me. Like when I first heard about that, and they were like, "Oh no, it's a thing." I was like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah.
Same thing with me in negative numbers.
Yeah,
that's a massive throwback, but maybe not for you all. But negative numbers blew my mind when I first.
Yeah, same. I was a little. They were like, "Yeah, there are negative numbers," and I was like, "Wait, what? How can you have negative of something?"
Oh, I know. They explained to me. It was explained to me as debt. Like, if you owe this money back, you owe this number back. I was like, oh, great. Now I hate math even more.
We had like a 0 through 10 kind of like paper rollout on the board, all of class. And then when we got to negative numbers, our teacher unfurled -1 through -10. I was like, what? It's mind blowing.
Now, the coolest part.
Zero.
Coolest part is when you have that timeline, and then you have imaginary numbers that do that and sit above the timeline. That's the really cool stuff. That's where it gets spooky. I like that.
Spooky.
Yeah.
You all watch Dark?
Spooky. No,
neither. Well, I'm 2 episodes in. I was gonna say neither have I, but I've heard good things, and I think there might be some time messing about in there. So I'm excited for that.
Anyone watch Interstellar? Because that was all about
Yes.
time
Oh,
dilation.
I really liked Interstellar. That's probably one of my favorite movies.
Yeah,
Same.
that was
Yeah,
a great
it's really
movie.
cool.
Excellent movie.
Cry every time during that spaceship scene while he's watching the video.
Yeah.
I remember it got me in
Yeah.
theater. I was like, I'm not going to. I'm not going to. I'm sobbing.
He
I
acted
know.
that really well.
He did.
Mhm.
He did. Man, that was a tearjerker. That part. That was hard to watch. It was a great movie though, man.
Indeed.
Like when they go into that, they go to that, you know, that planet that's like near the event horizon, and it's just like they realize if they go down there, they're losing like 80 years or something. It was just like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
It was like, they're like, we gotta
Yeah.
go. Like, yeah.
Something cool that they did on that scene that was sort of like subliminal is that you can hear like a clock ticking. And
Oh, no way.
Each tick is like a certain amount of time. It's not exactly a second, but each tick is actually the exact amount of time that it takes for a day to pass back on Earth. So like
Whoa.
you can literally count the days go by as they're like
Oh,
down
wow.
at that planet, which I thought was really cool.
That is really cool. The entire soundtrack for that film, Hans Zimmer,
Oh yeah, it was so good.
mind blowing. I saw him live in
Yeah.
concert here at Wang Theater or something like that, and it was just so moving.
Yeah, he's one of the coolest guys in the whole industry. As far as I hear people that, you know, he just lets people write with him and gives him credit for it and stuff. He's just a generous guy. I hear really good stories about him.
Mm.
His stuff's phenomenal too. He's actually, is he going to be
made
scoring?
Inception, right?
What's that?
Didn't the director make Inception too?
Oh, maybe.
yeah.
I think it was the same director who made
Yep.
Inception and Interstellar, right?
Oh yeah, it was Nolan.
Nolan?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He has a thing for time, and I think he loves theoretical physics, so that's why
Yeah.
he's really good. All this
Yeah, I
attention
really
to
like his
detail.
movies, especially with all like the practical effects that he does. It's nice.
Mhm.
So he's trying
Yeah.
to push Tenet so badly.
Yeah, it's not just all CGI.
Yeah,
They have actual sets and stuff instead of just green screens.
Yep.
really hyped for Tenet.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Yeah, it's really good stuff, man. I like Chris Nolan's movies. He's really good.
Yeah.
When he did The Dark Knight, I was blown away. I was like, this is like one of the best like superhero movies ever.
Yeah, that whole series was amazing.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I loved it. Bane's part, Bane, the whole, oh man,
Yeah,
Bane
Tom
character
Hardy
was phenomenal.
wasn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very relevant now. Nobody cares who I was until I took off my mask.
you know, exactly.
Speaking about films and effects and stuff, did anyone watch the DC Fandome thing? They basically released a bunch. Yeah, they released a bunch of trailers for everything DC. So the new Batman one with Robert Pattinson, the new Suicide Squad film. New Suicide Squad being the one that's going to pretend that the last one didn't exist. So it's called The Suicide Squad instead of Suicide Squad. Directed by James Gunn this time. It looks amazing. So that's good. And some video games as well. But yeah, they released a trailer for the 4-hour Snyder Cut of Justice League, which I'm really looking forward to because my dad did the special effects for that film, and
Awesome.
Oh, cool.
they cut out so many cool things when Zack Snyder had to leave the project for family reasons, and yeah, no one liked the final edit of the film. It was terrible, and apparently Zack never watched it. So all the fans were demanding for the actual Snyder Cut to be made and released. So next year they're doing that, and it's 4 hours long.
Nice.
That's pretty cool.
Wow, that better be a really good movie. 4 hours, man.
Yeah.
I think it will be.
Yeah.
I think that's what people said about Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. They did say that about Lord of the Rings.
What's the runtime?
I know.
3.5 hours.
Why didn't you put Tom Bombadil in it? You failed. Because it would have been 5 hours long.
I wonder how long all the new Marvel films put together are.
Oh man.
Too long.
Yeah.
They've done really well with them.
30 hours or something.
I didn't really like Endgame that much, to be honest. The plot just like overall felt pretty like rushed and disconnected from the rest of everything.
I haven't seen it yet. It's on my list. I need to see it.
I suppose they had so many things tied together. By things, I guess I mean characters. So many characters to tie together.
Yeah.
But all things considered, I think they did a pretty good job with it. But yeah, I mean, nothing's
I
perfect.
did feel like it was weird that they also like introduced time travel like in that final movie. Like maybe the time travel would have been better if they had introduced it like earlier, like prior to that. But it felt like they were just trying to add so much to it.
I'm glad they didn't do the traditional trope, and I think it was pretty funny that they made a point about not doing the traditional trope.
Yeah.
Apparently, it's 50 hours to marathon every Marvel Cinematic Universe.
50. I was close. About 20 hours. Wow. Yeah, I have Disney Plus now, so at one point, when I find the time, I have to catch up on the ones I haven't seen yet.
Yeah, I haven't watched Captain Marvel. I think that's the only one I haven't seen, so I'll need to watch that at some point.
Yeah, I haven't seen that either. So Blender.
Wait, what is this?
His
Oh yeah.
Sorry, go
on. No. Oh, okay. Mine's stupid now because if you actually had something, I was gonna say something I forgot to ask. Earlier someone mentioned dating sites. I was gonna say as a joke, would it be worthwhile making a Blender dating site just for a laugh? Do you think there'd be any use for that?
Just the only criteria is that you have to be a Blender user.
Or just use Blender. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe there's a way to prove it or something.
But is it left swipe or right swipe? And will it? Is there tags for
left click select, right click select?
Yeah.
Or what about Blender dating add-on? Okay, sorry, I'll stop talking.
No, I like that.
I still use right click select. I should probably switch to left click, but I don't know.
It matches you based on the operations you use inside of Blender, so it keeps track.
Yeah.
And like it tries to match people's behavior in Blender to see if they're compatible. Okay,
that's right. If you're a left clicker, you're gone. If you're a right clicker, you're gone.
Use Shift D instead of Alt D quite a bit.
Yeah.
Reckless.
There's like 20 women that use Blender, maybe more. I hope there's more. I really do. Every now and then I see women comment on the videos. I'm like, yes, we need more.
There's loads on like TikTok and stuff. Loads. It's
really?
Just the it's just a platform inequality thing.
Oh.
Yeah, I saw you tweeting about that a bit.
Yeah.
What kind of stuff did
not actually sure. I was talking to Pierre about it. I think he's on TikTok. I'm not on TikTok.
How dare you? No, I'm joking. I'm not on it either.
Yeah.
I was going to get into it, but then there was all of that stuff that was started coming out. You know, the guy reverse engineered it and was like, this is taking too much data and it's like encrypting itself new every day. And, like an innocent app shouldn't do that. And then
there
was just
phone.
But isn't
it for like a day and I deleted it. I'm like, this is Chinese. It's like it's going right to Chinese intelligence. I don't trust it.
Yeah.
Too much data.
I never even got TikTok. I'm Reddit gang.
Yeah, same. Anyway, we're all on a list now for talking about it.
Yeah, exactly. So is Blender 2.9 official release coming in like a few days? Was that what I read?
I've heard it soon. It should be definitely in August.
Yeah.
I think my favorite part about Blender 2.9 is being able to use the viewer node with Node Wrangler instead of node groups.
Does it work? I've not tried it.
Yeah, Node Wrangler viewer node works instead of node groups. It creates a temporary node group output.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that is so good.
So my question, because I've been underwater working so much. Like I actually worked in the office like all weekend. This is really the first day I'm not working probably in the last 2 weeks now. I got a question, like, so they went with 2.835 or whatever for the LTS version, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then they're going to release 2.9. So is that going to take over as like the LTS version, or like how is this working? Like, I don't understand what they're doing. Somebody please help me understand.
It's the point. X3 version, isn't it? So 0.93 is going to be the next LTS, and then that's as I understand it anyway. So it's going to get like overwritten, if that makes sense. So they're going to keep pushing 2.83 until 2.93. Let me just check. I've got the release notes here.
My uncle's dog just came in to say hi to me.
Yeah.
So they're gonna recommend for any production work you use 2.83 whatever LTS, but they're gonna release 2.9 out of beta.
Yeah. So 2.93 LTS is going to come out May 2021.
Okay.
And then 3.3 LTS is going to come out May 22. So
can't
they're
wait to see what
releasing.
they have in Blender 3.0.
Yeah.
So their release date on 3.3 on 3.0 or 3.3 is going to be when?
So 3.0 is 1 year this month, and 3.3, which is the long-term support version, will be in May 2022.
Okay.
So they're releasing an LTS version every year, and that will have 2 years of support. 2 years of updates.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, that makes sense. It's like there's so many versions now. I'm like, what are they doing? I'm like trying to catch up on all the news. I'm like,
So as an add-on developer, because I'm working on the next version of ByGen, what do? Do I like make a version for 2.8.5 and keep that as it is, provide support for it, and at the same time make one for beta 2.9, or just go straight to 2.9? I don't know what to do. Because I'm gonna have to like start looking after different versions. Should I have like an LTS version of the add-on while working on new features?
And if you have an LTS version, are you going to match Blender's LTS releases of one every 2 years, or no, one every year but supported for 2 years?
I have no idea. I haven't thought about it.
Is there a significant difference? Like, do you actually have to develop something differently?
No, it's only when they make subtle changes to the API. Most of the code, the vast majority of the code for ByGen would probably work with 2.79. But there are subtle differences that would break it, obviously, like the whole collection system. Whenever you're managing objects, you want to link them to collections, which clearly didn't exist back then. And there's also requirements for naming conventions and where things go. But so yeah, it's a little bit confusing to keep track of whenever they keep doing these updates. But for me, like I've got requests in the past which like, oh, this doesn't work in the add-on, and I'm like, well, that's because you're using 2 versions behind, and it was updated for the new versions. So all I can say is update, and I'm sorry if you don't want to. So yeah, you have to like try and make compromises where you can, but it's a bit of a weird choice. I'll probably make 2.8.5 and leave that as like just a version and never touch it again. But rather than removing it, because what I would do before is like between 2, 3, 4, whatever, whenever I brought a new version out, I would just delete the previous one from the download sections, because they would all kind of work on roughly the same versions anyway, so it wasn't that much of a deal. But now I think I'll keep the 2.8.5 one on there permanently, and then going on to 2.9, just have that as a separate thing.
Could you have, people don't like updating add-ons because often you have to go back to the specific developers to GitHub or whatever. With SphereChop, it's just got a check for updates button in the add-on, and it'll commit changes as well. Can you just do that?
It was either CG Cookie or someone that actually provided a free tool for that on GitHub. You just copy paste the code. So yeah, I think I can do that.
That's
but
amazing.
I need to look into it.
I was wondering about this because I see, Aaron, you often have, it says you're playing Blender on Discord. Is that because you have this? Is that because you have Blender?
You just tell Discord that it's something extra to look for. So it's just on Discord naturally. You can just say that this is like an app that you want Discord to notify people you're using.
So it's not because you've downloaded it through Steam, right? Because I think you can also download Blender through Steam if I'm not properly.
Yeah.
And so through Steam, wouldn't you be able to somehow have it just auto update Blender and add-ons as well?
Not the add-ons, but Blender, yes, depending on how up to date they keep it. Because there was a point where they weren't keeping the Steam version up to date, I think back in the 2.7 series, and it was a little bit behind, and that was a bit annoying. But I'm not sure whether they're
doing
speedy
it,
with it now.
on the same day releases. I was talking to somebody the other day who uses the Steam version, and he was saying that they come out basically the same day that they come out on the website. So they seem on top of it.
I used the Steam version for a while because the automatic updates was nice. You don't have a million different versions on your computer, and you don't have to delete older versions. The only thing is I like to use a lot of times I like to use the betas and even alphas sometimes because they have a lot of really cool features that I just need to use.
I wouldn't want it changing my version of Blender halfway through a project as well.
Yeah, that's true.
And that would be a nuisance.
Hi, CG Matter.
Hey, Tom.
Hello.
See a sideways thing.
I'm just trying to free up some CPU room.
Oh, just hover over CG Matter and hit delete.
What up? What did I miss? What are we in the middle of?
Hey. Blender updating itself.
We've got all sorts. Blender dating add-on idea as well.
That is good.
Matches your behavior and tries to find other people that do the same things.
Yeah, if you're a left clicker or a right clicker, if you're like a shift user or an alt user.
Do you delete the default cube and then add it again?
That's right.
Of course, who doesn't do that?
Speaking
I always create a new scene, delete everything in the scene, and then add a new cube.
Yeah.
Keep it clean.
That's right. Keep it clean. Brand new cube.
Who's this voice in your video? You had a.
Oh, you don't have a camera.
Was it
Okay.
actually your mom, or who was that?
No, that was a friend. I'm like, I need you to do mom stuff. It was all improv. So, yeah, she's very good at being a mom. She'll probably be good at annoying a kid one day.
Did you just drop that on her? Like, I just need you to be my mum really quick.
I tried to explain the idea. I'm like, whenever I say the word vertigo, just start knocking on the door. But yeah, it's based off that like old thing from 2008. You suck at Photoshop. I'm like, this is really funny. So if you haven't seen it, watch it. It's like a 30-part thing.
Oh, the you suck at Photoshop stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was good stuff.
Is this the
that
person
has like an overall like plot line, and it ends with the dude like dying or something? Or I know he was in the hospital towards the end, just recording more Photoshop tutorials.
Oh, my cinnamon bun shader that I made was so successful that someone made a bot to steal it.
Wait,
wow.
what?
Yeah. Somebody used a bot to like steal my art basically. Or the bot was around before that, but then they just set it up to like copy every tweet that I did.
Everything you say.
Yeah. And it's funny because I posted an image of my original art, and then the bot sent that right after stealing it. So the bot basically gave itself away. So that was nice.
What platform?
Oh yeah, somebody.
Twitter.
That's right. I saw somebody post it, and I was like, wait a minute, no, you didn't do that. That was that Gabe did that. And I was like confused. I was like, huh? It was coming from somebody else.
It's odd though, because it doesn't it doesn't. I assume it's just like some bot that's trying to retweet, but it's got something wrong with it, and it's just tweeting it directly. But it only does it with your stuff.
Yeah, it's weird.
What tags do you use?
Just B3D in that one. No, wait, I didn't even use any tags in that tweet. It just copied it.
They're another YouTuber actually. That person or that bot, whoever owns that bot. They post procedural textures. So.
Well, Andrew Price retweeted my thing, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah, we saw that at the Guru. I was like, all right.
Oh, nice.
It's well deserved though. It's such a good shader.
It really is.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm really happy with how it turned out.
Yeah,
Did you use an image at all in there, or is that just like?
No, it's entirely procedural. and it's
That's
just on
amazing.
a plane.
Wow, it's phenomenal. Like, it just looks so like you could eat it and get heartburn. It's awesome. The heartburn shader.
Yes.
You know, I
Curtis is
had
getting
to
comfy.
pay Andrew to respond to me. I had to pay him $50, but you know, doing it for free school.
Yeah,
I
man.
remember that.
You just gotta get on his good list.
Mm-hmm.
I'll never
So
be treated by that
uncomfortable
guy.
down here. Trying to I'm gonna end up laying next to this.
You can go to bed if you need to. Just take your mic with you.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's no chairs around here because they only rent this place out. You can tell it's not a home because they got like big empty spaces with nothing in it and like no sitting room. So there's very little to use.
It's like a beach house.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a
Airbnb thing.
4-story one or something.
Wow, nice.
I was going to say, what's everyone's current project?
I've been doing a lot of stuff with ray marching recently because it has a lot of applications. You can use it to generate height maps or vector displacement maps, not just rendering onto the surface of an object. And it's pretty cool.
I've got a short
that is
film
cool.
cooking about Viagra. I don't want to give too much away, but it's probably not going to be called Viagra, but it's about Viagra. So
Great.
next
Is this
month,
based on personal experience or?
it's based on only personal experience. I storyboarded it, and we'll see. Should be funny.
Is it going to include
Nice.
the vertigo effect?
It's going to include a lot of the that effect where insects are under your skin and you see that bump moving. It's gonna that's gonna tie into Viagra.
Oh.
Nice.
Very cool.
I'm working on animating a dream I had some time ago where I was stuck in space. So I scanned my face using a LiDAR camera and trying to get that onto an astronaut suit and do some animation with it.
Nice. Is that just like a personal project or is that being commissioned?
Personal project, but I'm working with some software to do some testing while they're in beta, specifically for this camera. So maybe a bit of both, but really it's kind of heavily a personal project. So I had this dream years ago and I always thought, man, it'd be really cool to make it into a film, but I don't know if I would ever have the budget or know how to do that. And years later, I'm just doing Blender. So. Pretty nice, and I might try also doing a version of it using Face Builder as well.
Curtis?
I have a.
My project. I'm at the moment because I want to spend a bit more time on doing more impressive projects. I'm supplementing the YouTube channel with just news and discussions. So I've recorded a news one while I'm here. So when I get back, I'll edit that and put it up. But I'm working on the next version of ByGen, which should be interesting. But I'm trying to do it in a way where after that I can step on to doing some paid content for it as well. Because in the last version, I added structural generators. I'm not sure if anyone knows too much about the add-on, but they were quite abstract algorithms that I was using to do like the mech and space station generator beforehand, which had paid versions. But basically, because I've added the abstract algorithm in there, I can use ByGen to make any kind of paid generator. I might do a paid one for the weapon generator and stuff like that, and I can sell them as templates. Like, hey, this is what you can do with ByGen. Here's like a fully artistic thing with a bunch of art content in it. So I'll probably end up doing that. But
imagine watching that like sci-fi gun course that like Josh is doing. Then Curtis is like one button gun generation. That's enough.
Yeah, I can do that. I might do a donut generator. No, I probably shouldn't do that. I'll have to do a donut one for free. But the thing is, you can only get so far with parts before repetition kicks in, unless you're an extremely prolific artist. So actually doing mesh construction from scratch is something that I have been experimenting with. At the moment, it's only restricted to abstract forms because without having any help, it's quite tedious, but also quite interesting, coming up with algorithms to try and like follow an edge flow. This is probably made a lot more simple with bmesh, but part of me has been completely refusing to use it. But it's interesting. And Biogen acts as like an experimentation platform. So if I want to play with something and I'll go, hey, it's useless, but it looks cool, then you can put it in there and call it a feature. And it's free, so whatever. But yeah, just having fun.
Isn't bmesh significantly more stable to use?
Yeah, it is. So if you're doing stuff from Pi data, you're basically left out in the dark. And sometimes you won't have enough mesh data, or things will be in the wrong order and it won't tell you why. Blender will literally just close. Like there's no error. Like if you construct a mesh wrong, it just goes nope and closes. So you have no way of knowing what you've done wrong. But bmesh does actually give you more error data as well. But you can also use it to help with actually constructing shapes and grabbing information about meshes, and so you don't have to write out your own algorithms for it. But yeah, but I feel like that's playing it on easy mode, and I'm a little bit sadistic. So yeah, I'll probably get around to it.
You're in insane mode, insane difficulty type of place.
Yeah, the thing is, like, if you want to transfer the skills to other things, like if I want to create some really complex, procedural terrain generator, which I know has been done donkey's amount of times, but from scratch, just for the learning experience, in any other type of graphical engine, if you do it from the ground up, then you have the knowledge to translate it to any software whatsoever. If you use bmesh, you're limited to Blender.
Right.
So part of it is a learning experience, like just forcing yourself to actually understand how it's done. So you can take that really those foundation techniques and just translate them anywhere, because I'm not strictly interested in just Blender. So I guess that's partly where the added challenge comes from. But it is shooting yourself in the foot a bit if you're trying to make stuff to show off for the Blender community. But hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm all about that as well. Just getting that foundation. I was actually I sent the picture of the still of what I'm working on, the astronaut suit, and I don't like the helmet at all. So I was going to create one, and I had a helmet in mind. I'm like, where have I seen something like this before? It's actually Biogen, one of the stills from your videos on it. Like, oh, maybe I could use that, or maybe I could make it in VR or something. And then actually for the stars, I used Kev's video on generating stars using the world shaders.
All right.
And then I was like, this looks so boring. How can I make it look volumetric? And so now I'm watching your video on it, the spaceship.
Yeah.
Curtis of just adding volume to things.
Oh yeah.
I think conceptually understanding that will help, but if I just used an add-on to get me there, I would have the finished product, but I wouldn't know how to transfer it to like Houdini or Maya or something else.
Yeah.
Sometimes, like in the middle of all this experimentation, you'll stumble on a very small but very significant piece of information. But it's usually that little breakthrough. Like if you have a frustration with something, you spend hours on it, and then you find a simple solution, and you go, "Oh yeah, that was simple, but now I understand it," and that's it. You just move forward, and you never forget that. But you don't always write it down. And usually there are other people out there that encounter the same issues as well. And it can be for anything, like super technical things where it's like click this button or use this, algorithm or whatever. But it can also be for artistic things and like full processes / ideation, which is something I think Chip Waters knows a fair amount about.
Yeah.
But so what I do is like whenever I encounter something like that, I write it down in a little notebook, and I have notebooks for different things, and I've brought my Python one with me. So yeah, there you go, very good. Let me see if I can grab it. Look at my back.
The big takeaways for me from both of those videos were, okay, I can use world shaders to mess around with the scene, and it's very low cost. Oh yeah, nice. I like the blender sticker. I need to get one of those. And then from your videos, putting the volumes in the cube, like sticking the volume in there somewhere, and then the way that you made the rain too. I was like, oh, it's not easy, but it's so easy.
Yeah.
So
yeah, exactly.
Low cost.
You can throw volumes into a world shader too. It's just not as controllable as throwing it into a box. So It's easier to control in a cube, in a finite volume that you can control.
Yeah.
My first go around was using cards, but that was just if you want to do moves and stuff, it just doesn't work out.
Cards are cool. They render fast too, and they can react to lighting as well.
I have an exclusive. We have the voice of. Here you go. Answer the questions.
Hello.
But I said no question.
So this is the voice of
Mom.
I don't know whatever I made. Yeah.
It's nice to meet you.
Hi.
Thanks for coming,
Hello.
Mom.
Yeah, welcome
Glad
to the
to be here.
podcast.
Of course.
So, do you have any input on
Yes.
Blender?
I know nothing except I just learned that it existed very recently.
That's good enough.
It's awesome. Many do.
What?
You go. All right.
Yeah.
Just give me like.
I love that shirt. It's mimosa. Leviosa. Not Leviosa.
Anyway, yeah, just as an example, like some of the more recent things I have in the notebook now, because I was doing mesh construction, connecting vertices in order of list, create quads in order, so taking a list of vertices and then creating quads between them cleanly, accessing vertices from edges, creating triangles in order, making a circle with vertices. So I write a very, very short, like quick bit of code for each of those things. So it's very easy to access, because when you're writing those, you think, okay, well, how do I connect triangles between this data type? You're like, okay, well, I wrote that down in the book, so I can go flick through and find the tiny bit of text that shows how to do that. So handy little things.
Yeah, I'm trying to take stuff that I've written out here, yikes, and port it over to Notion. You all don't use that already.
Really, Notion is really good.
Really, really great tool, and putting that together, and then hopefully at some point I'll feel comfortable enough just making it like a public page that I can link to, where it's just an amalgam of a lot of your videos, honestly, like all of you, and some of my own notes on them. Very searchable.
Yeah, I like Notion. I use it for the BioGen wiki as well, the public one, curtisholt.wiki. But I wish they would just allow for custom domains. That seems to be like a very heavily requested feature for Notion, because it's such a fantastic platform for writing pages and wikis and databases and stuff. But I guess one of the reasons why they haven't focused on it yet is because they need to manage their like cloud computing workload. Because right now Notion is targeted towards like personal users. They want to use it for note taking and all stuff like that. So there's only going to be a few people looking at each page. And as soon as they allow things like custom domains, then they enter the business space. And then they need to be ready for like, surges of bandwidth as soon as people want to build proper websites around their platform. So it'll be interesting to see if they have a way of sorting that out. Does anyone else here actually know what Notion is? Notion. It's a really good note-taking platform.
I'll link it in the chat.
So you can host it as websites. You can use it as like a...
Yeah, so technically every page or every item has a URL, and it's private by default, but you can make it public and expose it for everyone to look at. But it's really nestable as well. So you can have like a page with a table, and every element of that table is another page, which has different types of databases, and then each of those elements can be another page. So you can like link everything to each other. Oh, there goes CG.
We just lost Jacob as well.
Oh yeah, he dropped off too.
Yeah.
Oh, what happened?
It's great. It's such a great tool for just like keeping. It's kind of like a digital notebook, but also institutional knowledge. If you're working with a team and you want to pass something along, you don't necessarily want to take the time to get that person up to speed. If you have it really well detailed, it's incredibly helpful.
Can you use it collaboratively?
Yeah.
Can you both work on the same Notion?
You can. I think there's a cap for how many people you can have on your team before you have. I think.
And an interesting thing about it as well is that if you're looking at the page, if it's been made public, if someone is making changes to it, you can see the changes in real time. It's a bit
Oh,
like a
wow.
Google document. Like, if someone writes, you can watch them writing, but it's a bit weird seeing that as a web page because you can watch someone build the web page while you're still on it. So it's funky.
It's weird. I've been using Slack for a lot of the freelance stuff, and that seems to be the platform everyone wants to use right now. I was like, all right, we'll use Slack. Works for me.
How are you finding it?
I like it. It works. It allows me to update, upload my stuff and have everybody check it out and, yay it or nay it. And I can upload files and all sorts of stuff. It's really cool.
I used Slack for the first time when I joined robotics, and all my friends and I were like, wait a minute, this is just Discord light mode.
Kind of, yeah. Yeah, Discord does a lot of that too.
Mm-hmm. Although there's some
it feels more professional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Discord is sort of like marketed towards gamers.
Yeah.
It's seen a lot of movement around the Discord space just outside of gaming. I mean, obviously Blender was one of them, but also like language learning subreddits, I think I've mentioned before, have a lot of so many people, just Discord channels. Sometimes it's kind of a mess, honestly. But
yeah.
It's really interesting to see how communities like crop up.
I'm on way too many Discord servers.
Yeah.
It's easy to go down a rabbit hole as well, and then suddenly just like all of your friends have a Discord server, so you join like just 12 just straight off the bat.
Yeah,
I know.
And then you're just intimidated to be active in all of them.
Yeah,
I know. You just get notifications.
Yeah, I don't text anybody, so it's so hard to keep up with what's going on in Discord. So I just don't text anyone. Period. Really. So when I'm on Discord, I'm like, oh damn, I gotta keep up, and I gotta scroll sometimes, just get into all these conversations. Like, I want to know what's going on, but
you've got to be an addict. You've got to get addicted to a server to like really stay on top of it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, like Aaron's servers, your server is awesome. I was in there for a while, then I got super busy at work and I haven't been around at all. But man, I had to jump back in, and then the BlenderNest one is always great.
And Coaxes as well.
We have a good community.
You're doing a really good job with your server, Aaron.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Every time there's a battle, I have some assignment that I get for work, like an hour before, and then you announce the battle. I'm like, no, I can't. So I've yet to make it.
And you got to come on tomorrow. Come on tomorrow. And Gabe's doing a talk later today.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man,
come watch.
Yeah, great. I'm gonna do sort of a live tutorial on how to make a ray marching shader. I'm gonna break down the math and stuff. Then I'm gonna go over like making sign distance functions, which is what you use when ray marching. Then I'll also go over like the applications of ray marching, like how to use it to do stuff like displacement maps and vector displacement.
That's awesome.
So good.
Yeah,
so good.
Yeah, that'd be worth watching. And I'll make sure I jack into that one. Man, so much. Being part of the Blender community and just 3D in general, like this is probably like the most busy time I've ever seen 3D. Like back in the late 90s, it was pretty busy because it was new and everybody was jumping on their PCs, and then in like the early 2000s, it was had another like resurgence. And then it kind of went away in like the late 2000s, and then in like the last decade, it's just been kind of like bouncing around, and now it's taken off again.
So many people are getting into from like the pandemic and stuff.
Yeah, I think the pandemic has a lot to do with it. People are just like, what do I do? I'm stuck at home. Oh, Blender.
The demonetization virus.
Yeah, exactly.
So as Aaron was saying, like everyone has a server now as well, especially with creators as well, because you want to keep track of everyone else's. So every creator is now part of every other creator's server. But have you seen about the announcement channels on Discord?
No.
Yeah,
I only learned about that recently, but I think that's pretty cool.
They made custom channels for like just announcements, and then other servers can follow it, so you can like share announcements between servers.
So theoretically, cool. I have a resources channel on my server. If I follow, say, Aaron or Gabe or whoever has an announcement channel where they post like only their content, then I can subscribe to that and have their content appear in my resources channel. So I'll need to set that up.
It's quite good to have like a central hub. Like people could have their own server, but then subscribe to like 5 or 6 different servers and just have it all trickle through theirs.
That would actually be really cool. Yeah.
That would be really cool. Because this keeping up is really tough.
I wouldn't have to worry about being active in so many servers.
Yeah, just have like a meta server, an
you
Uber
could create
server.
your own like home, your own server that's just your like personal space, and just create all the channels you like for different subjects. I could have like a Blender channel, then all the Blender news comes in, like a Unity channel, all the Unity news comes in. That's cool.
Yeah, that would be really cool. I haven't started a server of my own. There's no, I can't. I don't have time to even manage it. It would die. Even like my Patreon account is like, it's great and people are like signing up, but it's like it's not very active. And I'm like, I wish it would be more active. But then I'm like, well, if it's more active, then I'd have to be there more instead of just uploading content. It's just tough. It's tough to manage.
Yeah. I mean, I don't do anything with mine, and people still sign up. But it's just I make it clear to them this is just a donation platform. There are no promises, but you know.
Yeah, I'm constantly uploading stuff to it. Like I have quite a bit up there now, but I'm like, I'm happy because it's not. I don't have to like actively like people are like they go and they download the stuff and then once in a while they'll comment, they'll ask a question, but mostly it's just chill. It's looking like, all right, this is great.
People in the Blender community are like so generous too. Like,
they are.
You can give away something for free and people like donate $10 for it.
Yeah, like I just started Gumroad. Just putting stuff up on Gumroad because it's cheaper than putting it on my own server. And I'm like, people are like donating to me. It's like free. I'm like, guys, this is free, but people are still giving me money. I'm like, thanks, man.
Same thing happened to me when I
awesome.
started Gumroad.
It's so good that like even if it does just get you a coffee every week, like there's a coffee you wouldn't have otherwise had. It's just nice.
Exactly. I'm grateful. I think that's awesome. Like I'm gonna keep putting stuff out just because I do it. But if people want to pay for it, that's great. Hey, well, I'm grateful.
It does scale quite well as well. I mean,
I haven't created a course or anything.
I think my Discord might be lagging out a bit, but can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you okay.
Yeah, you were saying it does scale. You were saying
the donations do scale. Not like it's about money or anything, but I have noticed it's interesting because I put a lot of free stuff on Gumroad and a little bit of paid stuff, but some things have only gotten a few downloads and some things have gotten a giga amount of downloads. And it's true if you imagine like 1% of people donate, or maybe even less than that. And if you scale up the number of downloads, then the amount of money scales up as well. So Biogen has received thousands of dollars in donations.
Whoa.
Because, well, on Gumroad alone, it's 30 approaching 40,000 downloads. And it's pretty good conversion. And that's surprised me a lot because you think, well, it's just like a free little fun thing. But there's also the element of people's sense of value. So I've noticed that on just random pieces of artwork, for example, if you're just sharing them for free, people are just like, they don't really donate as often. But if it's an add-on, people have an understanding that there's like a certain skill level or barrier that goes into making that. And they're like, oh, well, I would have paid for this anyway, so I'm going to give you this much money. So you definitely see that reflected in the donations. So people are very generous, and they do have a sense of, a certain amount of them do have a sense of like giving back for the effort that's involved, which is very nice to see.
I like it when you get a message from somebody and they're like, I put it on Gumroad so that I can give you a donation. Like if you were just putting it out on like a Google Drive link, people will say like, oh, put it somewhere I can donate, which I think is really nice.
Yeah. They do ask for that too. They're like, can I donate? I'm like, it's just free, but if you want, I can set something up if you really want to. That's great. Like I've like paid for free stuff before too because I've used it in projects. And I'm like, you should get something for it because I'm using it to make money, so you should make money too. It's it's a tool that it's stuff that people have put out there that I'm like, this is amazing. Like you just saved me hours and hours of work, so here's some money. Enjoy. So it is a very generous community. Like you do get the people who expect everything to be free because Blender's free, but I think there's a lot more professionals jump into Blender, we're going to start seeing a lot more, and and a lot of even hobby users, who just feel generous will be donating. So it's a good community. It's a really good community.
So far, I've given away like everything I make for free because I have a hard time trying to decide how to price things like advanced shaders, which can be kind of impractical at times.
Mm-hmm. That's the thing with shaders. Like it is practical if you're using them for certain things, and you need it for you need something procedural for a job, and it has to be like resolution independent. And there's so much use for that,
Yeah, it's good in like specific cases.
Mm-hmm.
If it's
Also,
like a general material, like I have a timber generator, and that does quite well, because people need wood. So
yeah.
See, that's the thing about shaders that I think is like one of the best aspects of them, that you can just like tweak some values in it and get like vastly different results. Like you can create tons of iterations of different materials just with a single setup, which is really nice. That's the great thing about like proceduralism.
Mm-hmm.
It does make it a bit harder to sell though, because like if you had PBR textures that you were selling, each one is its own thing, and you could sell 10, and it's 10 times more valuable.
Yeah.
But if you have like a wood generator or a tile generator or something like that, then you've done one, and you have to go into like an entire different genre of material to make your next thing. You can't just make like another tile generator because your first one does it. So
yeah, that's where marketing comes in. That's a whole other art and science. Really, really is. I have not been using my marketing knowledge in my YouTube channel at all. I really probably should start, because at some point it's like, all right, how much time am I spending? And I'm, like, that I could be out making money or doing something else or whatever. And it's just like, the family pressure comes in. It's like, oh, all right. Or the work pressure comes in. It's like, all right, I got to justify somehow like putting work down and doing the BlenderNest, or doing the not the BlenderNest, that's an hour a week, but my channel and stuff. So it's crazy. And I think the project I have now is kind of a rebrand coming, because now Blender had said that they don't want people using the word Blender in their stuff, like on their websites or whatever, like for the names and things. I was reading that, I'm like, okay, well, if there's any time to do it, now's the time.
So is this something you've been toying with for a little while? Because I've heard you say before that you don't really like the name Blender Binge.
Yeah, I started it, but it kind of locks me in. And as much I love Blender, and I'm always going to be doing Blender. I'm always going to be doing Blender content. But I know so much. Like, I've used so many other things in production that I can like do entire like video series on all sorts of different things, like Maya or Max or Vue or Lightwave or whatever. And I'm like, Blender just kind of like locks me into like just Blender, and I feel like I don't know if I have more value that I can show people how to use Blender with other software. Like, I can show people how to tie Blender into Maya, or how to tie Blender into Houdini, and how to like do all this cool stuff. But if I'm like locked into like the name Blender, like Blender Binge, and Binge kind of like reminds me of binge drinking, so it's kind of not, or bulimia or something. I don't even know. It's just like, but it just like I'm kind of like at my end of that name. And now that Blender's, the Institute put out that other announcement, with their the logo use and the badges and all that, I'm like, maybe it's time to just do a rebrand. I could do another channel, but then I got to grow it, and I'd just rather stick what I have. Yeah, and I'll probably lose a few subscribers who are like, you're not purely Blender, but I'm always going to be using Blender to tie into some video somehow. So always, like,
I really love doing like combined workflows too. Like, I use Blender alongside Substance Designer all the time.
Oh, like, cool. Yeah.
Like, I'll do a lot of rendering in Blender where I like make materials or whatever and like other software.
Oh yeah. And that's the thing I think is really cool about Blender now, is that I think it's not going to necessarily become the de facto pipeline standard in studios for quite a long time. But what it will do is it'll become a tool like ZBrush is, or like Substance is, or like a number of these other software are, that you can you can use it alongside the pipelines that exist, and it's a really powerful, tool to put into your pipeline. So a lot of studios will have their pipelines based on Maya or on, Houdini or whatever, but they can use Blender inside of that pipeline. And I think that's the way that Blender is going to, will become a professional standard, is through, a side software that adds value to an existing pipeline. So in doing videos where I can show people, hey, like, here's how you can use Blender with Maya. Here's how I use Blender with Houdini. Here's how you can use Blender with, I don't know, Terrigen or whatever, like World Machine, whatever, SpeedTree. I just used SpeedTree for the first time this week. I had like an hour to learn SpeedTree and I had to use it in a shot. And I'm like, this is really awesome, SpeedTree. What an awesome software that is. And you can use it with Blender, and it's amazing. But there are ways to to use it. Like each time you use Blender, there's a certain way you have to use it with other software. It's not like straightforward, because there's not a whole lot of infrastructure that exists for Blender right now as far as like these other packages. So like a lot of my job is figuring out how do I use this software with this software. So on my channel, I could add a lot of value just teaching people or showing people how to do that. And instead of like, oh, I don't have a video, let me do a Twinkie. Like, no one wants to watch me do a Twinkie, but like if I'm like showing people how to use Maya with Blender, that's like, it's value. So
I think that actually
that's what I'm thinking.
It would be so valuable, because I've been using Blender in production with a group of people who are also using Blender in production, and it's been sometimes frustrating, because I'm a Blender native. I would consider myself. I've been using Blender for a really long time. They are not, and they're very good with Blender, but they're coming at it from different softwares with different expectations of professional pipelines, and Blender doesn't match industry processes all the time, and some things about Blender really don't make sense that you don't realize until you're working in a production environment. So having a resource that we could just go to and be like, okay, this is how we can use it with, like Softimage or Maya or whatever, that would be just so valuable to have that, because there's really very little out there at the moment about using Blender in a professional environment.
Yeah. And I've been doing it with freelance and trying to just, bridge it all. And I've been using Blender a lot, like solely for freelance, but I get files from other software, and it's like, all right, well, how do I make sense of this? How do I do this? So there's, and plus like Houdini is, I'm using Houdini like all the time now at work, and I'm just really getting addicted to it, as addicted as I am to Blender. So it's like, and the both can be, two can be used together in a really powerful way, because Blender offers Houdini something that Houdini doesn't necessarily have. That you can't really do easily. A few things that you can't do easily in Houdini that you can whip up really fast in Blender, and it really will play off each other. And I think those two softwares can really work very well together. But it takes some finesse. So there's a lot that I want to do. So I think there might be a rebrand coming, and we'll see what it does with my subscribers. But honestly, like my subscribers they're awesome, but only a handful are watching all of my videos. So like, if I'm gonna do any kind of rebranding, now is a good time, I think.
Yeah, just go ahead and do it. I mean, like it plays on my mind a lot as well when changing types of content. And yeah, it does have a bit of a negative effect sometimes, but sometimes it will surprise you.
Yeah.
Because you don't. Okay, so we've said it lots of times on the podcast, but you don't know what you don't know, and you don't know who you don't know as well. So you have no idea who out there in your audience actually likes you and respects you enough to just follow you whatever changes you make. It's so easy to blanket your audience in like with the label of, oh, they're not going to watch it because it's not interesting. Because we don't know. And
we don't know. You're right.
That's something that I do as well. I mean, I'm sorry, audience, if you're watching.
I know. I love my audience. I love you guys.
But yeah, I mean, you should just do it, because I think the longer it plays on your mind, the more you're holding yourself back as well. You might as well just experiment and see what works for you now, because realistically, a year from now, when you've made a bunch of other stuff, a small dip now isn't going to make that much of a difference, really.
Yeah, it's not.
So
and also it gives you the time to grow after having made the change. Like the longer you leave it, the shorter that time afterwards is. So
exactly,
definitely.
it's very true. But I'm not definitely not getting away from Blender. Blender is the future. I really see it. But I think if two pieces of software are the future in 3D, I totally think it's Blender and Houdini. Those two are just that's my prediction. I just think that direction is where it's going to need to go, especially with the onslaught of stuff for VR that's coming and the need for all of that content. Anything that's procedural is going to have an advantage over anything that's destructive. It's just the way it's going to it has to happen that way, because things need to just you need to just be able to change a few parameters and have a different world generated. Like you're not going to be able to just create all that stuff. And then real time generation too. It's going to come, and wow, like I see proceduralism as the way forward.
I've been learning Godot while I've been away as well. Not in a traditional way, but in using C#. And there's not a lot of content out there for using C# with Godot, even though it's supported. So you have to use a fair amount of interpretation. But I like it because I feel like even though it's quite bare bones now, that software also has a very bright future because it is open source and it is powerful for what it does. And I mean, it's got its own Python-inspired language called GD script. And you can easily call features from each other language as well. So it supports GD script, C#, and C++.
Oh, wow.
And it's the MIT license, not the GPL license as well. So that gives you more flexibility if you wanted to do spin-offs. So if anyone wants to build if anyone wants to build their own game engine, don't build it from scratch. Just work from Godot if you really want to. So yeah, I mean, it's quite exciting to play with, but there are lots of little issues because things like C# aren't completely supported properly. So like you'll run into weird build errors when you like make a file and then you'll just delete the file and make it exactly the same way again, and then suddenly it works. So whatever. But no, it's quite fun. And what you were saying about what you were saying about like your idea of showing people how to use Blender with other workflows as well. And what Aaron was saying, there's not a lot of content out there for that. But what I have seen is there's a lot of people doing comparisons, but not showing how to use them together.
Yeah.
So it seems
it's
like
always
something that's
Blender
avoided.
or Maya. You can't be
both.
Yeah, that's the whole. That's that whole flame war thing. I avoid those. I really do. There used to be such. I mean, between 3D Studio Max and Maya, or between Lightwave and Maya, and it's just like, you guys, like it doesn't. It's like people want they learn they get so heavily invested in one piece of software, and it's true. You have limited time to learn something, right? But if you're putting everything you have into one piece of software at the expense of other software, and you're saying, no, this is the best because this is the best. And I mean, on CG Talk, I used to see these wars erupt about what software is better, and it's like it doesn't matter. Like you can use you can use all sorts of different software for different things, and you can bridge them. And especially now with different file types, you can go back and forth. And I often say this, like I saw XSI die. I saw XSI take a nosedive, and there were so many studios that were completely invested in XSI, and they had to retool, and it's like an entire like user base was just obliterated overnight because their software was killed off. Like, so you never know like how economics are going to affect the entire industry. So just be flexible, and if you can learn other software too, it's just going to make you a more well-rounded artist. You can sit in many different places and create. You don't need to have just my one software and that's it and everything else sucks. Like, you're walling yourself off. We all love Blender. I do. I love Blender. But like, if I'm going to try to make a city and destroy a city in an earthquake, I'm probably not going to use Blender, because right now, like, it's going to be really resource intensive. Like, I'll probably have to find software that like something maybe like Houdini or something that handles the data like that, or that's set up for something like that. Like, different software, different tools. It's a tool at the end of the day. It's a tool.
People, for most 3D artists, they're not working on something which is so specific that it has to be done in one software.
Yeah.
Like most of the things that I see online are being done, like, if you want to make characters, you can do it in Blender, but you can also do that in Maya really well.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can do it in like Modo. You could do it in Mudbox, I think. And you could do it in...
Mudbox. Is Mudbox still around? That was a pretty cool little program. I was trying to compete with ZBrush, but
yeah. I think it is still floating around.
We had it for a little while. I kind of liked it, but I didn't really use it.
But the whole Blender's best. It's like you're not using the specific thing that Blender is better at.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like Blender's procedural shader system is phenomenal. It's world class. It's awesome. So like if you want to shade and actually Eevee is such an awesome render engine and it's growing and it's getting better and better and better. And so is Cycles. Like if Mantra in Houdini is great, but it's pretty slow. Like it renders pretty slowly. Like you can optimize it, but I still found it slow. Whereas like if you just need something that's rasterized, Eevee's awesome for that. And I know like Side Effects is making Karma, but it's not prime time yet. They haven't really released it, as a full version yet. But like Blender has some really awesome things that you can use at the end of your pipeline. And then it has a compositor. It's not the greatest compositor, but if you can't afford Nuke, or After Effects, Blender's it's a nice compositor to put stuff together in.
And it's got a video editor too.
Yeah,
well,
I don't think anyone uses the Blender video editor though.
I've seen one video that was using the Blender video editor, and no comments. But I've been thinking about this too, because there's so many. Blender's a free tool. I currently use Photoshop and like Adobe Creative Cloud for things I do for work, mostly related to video, but there's no. I mean, there is reason. I was going to say there's no reason why I couldn't do that with Blender, and I mean that it's not the same. They're not as robust, but you could do it. But kind of back to Aaron's point, you're not using the one thing that Blender's really excels at. If you do that, so there's different. There's just different tools for your toolbox.
Exactly.
Why just have like one tool in your back pocket? You could have plenty. Like I haven't touched Houdini all that much, but when I do, I'm like, okay, it's different. But there's also like if I wanted to do certain things, like it's not the barrier of entry to do that. It's not too massive.
The thing about Blender is it's very like generalist software. Like there are other softwares that are better with lots of stuff that Blender like is able to do, but not necessarily as good at. But the main difference is that Blender does it all in like one software, so you're not like sending files between multiple different softwares and stuff, which can get kind of tedious at times, especially when working with like a larger team. You can do that all in a single software, which is like one of my favorite things about Blender. Just how much it has, how much it's able to do.
Yeah, Blender is like that really thick Swiss Army knife. Like you've all seen the really thick Swiss Army knives, right? They have like almost every tool in it. Like the blades are sharp. If you keep them sharp, they're really nice, right? But they're not like a survival knife. It's like a really huge. They're not like it's not like a machete. So you're not gonna like go and whack through a forest with your survival knife. But you can use that survival knife, in that forest for a lot of different other things. So like I liken Blender to a really awesome Swiss Army knife. It's a really great tool to have in a pipeline, and it can get you out of binds so many times. Like there have been times where like I've gotten FBX files that I had to bring into Houdini, and like I had to clean them up, and I'm not going to do it like go through the rigmarole in Houdini. So I'll bring it into Blender, really quickly group things, or I'll bring it into Maya, really quickly group things, and then export it back into Houdini, and it has all it'll have like the entire object level set, everything's set up, which is really, really nice in the network editor. But like, Blender is great at that sort of thing. It's a great cleanup tool. It's a great tool to just like if you want to do something really fast, just go into Blender and whip it up. It's so good for that. It's like you said, it's a generalist tool. It's probably one of the best generalist tools that exist right now, all around. Like when I started using Blender, I started using it for real on a project in 2.78 or 2.79, I think. And I was coming off of Maya 2015 at the time or something, and I just loved Blender. I felt like it was so much further ahead than Maya at the time. And it was using, things that were in white papers that were just recently, released, and it was already in Blender. And I'm like, this doesn't exist in Maya yet. And I just felt like I was using something next gen. Blender felt newer than Maya did. And I was like, this is incredible. And I got excited about 3D again using Blender. And that launched my channel and everything. It kind of just like it made me want to just jump in the community and actually what's that, binge it. It did. I was binging Guru's videos and Gleb's videos, and I was excited. And I still am. I mean, I still get excited because Blender they don't have a marketing team that's saying you have to do this, this, and this to make our release and make our shareholders happy or whatever. Like Blender's just like, all right, we want to do this, let's do it.
The community is there.
Sure.
Shareholders, yeah.
It is,
like
yeah.
My YouTube homepage has been totally revamped by my interest in Blender. So now it's just all the tabs at the top. Now they've added like different, I guess tags for different videos, and they're all 3D modeling related. It's like artificial intelligence in there is probably the only one that's not 3D modeling related. It's like 3D modeling, Blender, Substance, all this other stuff. It's like, well, I'm not mad about it. It's like,
Blender is also what you make it, because it's open source and because it's so flexible. Even down to stuff like, you can completely redesign your entire startup file just to be unrecognizable to anyone else's. And I think that's really cool. Because it's like, it's like owning a house. Like you can design the interior however you like, but two people living in the same house would have completely different interiors. It just very much matches the personality. But if you want to take it a bit further, you can. Like, I'm building my own little corner because Blender is great as like a hands-on modeling tool. It's not so great as like a procedural modeling tool, like Houdini is. That's why I've been building my little structural generators, so I can play around there, like like a kid in the corner with his own toys, while other people are doing their own stuff. So it's just a fun thing to work with.
It is.
It's a good point about add-ons and like making Blender so much more your own. I don't know to what extent that's true for other software, and I don't feel like it's as true as it is for Blender, because Blender is all about add-ons. And Blender vanilla is amazing, but you can download tools to do anything. Like there's stuff to do macros, or like your Bigen stuff is so powerful. And then you've got things like Sverjock and animation nodes, and that's like it's basically unrecognizable what the functionality is as well.
Yeah.
Blender's API allows you to modify and create so many things. And that's something that I think other softwares really don't allow you to do. Because Blender lets you get really in there with the user interface as well. It's not perfect because there are certain areas that you're not allowed to touch or make new things just with Python alone. You can if you want to go into the C code, but the Python Blender API is pretty good as it is. But that's really the limiting factor for other software, I think, because I'm not sure how in-depth Maya lets you get with Python coding. So I have done a little bit there for them, but it was very much like push this button and then just run the code. Blender's like, hey, you can build any panels, any menus you like, do all that.
You could do that with Maya too. It's just they grew up on Mel, and you could use Mel to do anything, and then their Python bindings got much better over time. I've been out of the Maya loop for a bit, but it's you can do quite a bit with it. It's pretty extensive. But then again, Blender's open source, and Maya's not. So there's always that open source functionality where you can go into the C code and reconfigure everything. You could rewrite the program. I mean, and it's under that GPU license or whatever, open source. So it's that much more extensible.
Yeah, I was gonna use what was it? Mr. Horse's animation composer for After Effects. I think it was maybe last year or the year before that for something I was working on, and I ended up not doing it, and then had the idea, oh, maybe I could do something really specific to this use case, and so I started looking at After Effects and Premiere as like what they make available for you as a developer to use, and it was just so boxed off, cordoned off. And then you look at something like Blender. Kurtz was saying you can make your own panels. Like that's huge, and it's not just like you said, like push a button and have it run this code. It's like you can make your panels. You can add these, you can add these items. Like think of like R arrays or array tools, or like Biogen. All these animation nodes. They're unrecognizable. It's really crazy to me, and there's so many things to fall in love with and just get crazy about. Just even in the stuff that's like built in, like not the add-ons that you have to import via the zip file, but just already on Blender that are currently turned off. If you're watching this and you haven't messed with those, like go on Blender and look at that list of add-ons and start clicking stuff on and playing with them. Let us know what you think.
That's a really good list.